There we go. There we go. So this is definitely worth writing down. And what that is what you do today, you will see the results in 90 days. And I picked this up from Andy Frisella years ago, talked about it quite a bit, but I started with a conscious effort looking at the things that I'm doing and when those start bearing fruit. And I've noticed it's typically in that 60 to 90 day time frame. So if you're in sales right now, start building those relationships today, because you'll more than likely see the fruit of that labor in 90 days. I had a quick coffee with Rod this afternoon, and I said, hey, you might be surprised. I signed up for real estate school today. And he's like, what? Why would you do that? And of course, he was supportive. And I realized that I've referred over $5 million worth of real estate business to different realtors here in Montana. And there's no such thing as like a finder's fee for somebody like me doing that, unless you have a real estate license. If I get a real estate license, then I have the opportunity to receive a 25% of their commission fee for that. So I'm looking at the $5 million that I referred up here. I thought, as time goes by, that starts to add up pretty quickly. So I jumped in, signed up for an online class, and in 70 hours and a couple tests from today, I should have a real estate license, and I can start receiving some referral fees. Now, that's a perfect example of a 90-day window, or roughly a 90-day window by the time I get through that class and stuff. So the work I'm putting in now, we'll see the results down the road. So I want to encourage everybody to really think about that in your schedules and what you're doing. And that is a perfect layup for what I want to talk about tonight. And that is intention is the word for the night. And I'll thank one of our members for giving me that word. And I'm hoping that this person takes some really good notes tonight, because, we do a lot of things with intent. I signed up for that real estate class with intent. And oftentimes when we are doing things, we might just be doing them without the real intention or our goals or our focus in mind. I think it's important to put that word right in front of you. I remember as a kid, and it's amazing how you have this recall, when my dad was teaching me how to drive. It was more about not just how to drive, but when you're driving, things that you should be doing or things that you should be aware of. And what he taught me was to be intentional about where I was going and developing a route so that I wouldn't waste gas. Go to the furthest place and work your way back, so that you're not double dipping, going, far away, then back, then far away again. He's like, build a route so you're not wasting gas. You're not driving all over the place all day. And that always stuck with me. And what that meant to me was going places with intent, and having a purpose behind them and having a schedule. So the power of intention and why it should be emphasized. First of all, it gives you clarity and helps you create structure. And so I used that driving experience with my dad as that I had the structure to build a route, and I knew exactly what I had to do and when I had to do it. So think about that when you think about intention. Intention can also define who you want to be, because you'll act with intent based on those thoughts. You want to be a successful entrepreneur. You want to be successful in real estate. You want to be a successful marketer. If you act with intention, you'll become those things. We talked about this before, oftentimes about your thoughts will help define who you are, especially if you're a big, proponent of negative thoughts. You're always talking negatively to yourself. You're going to become that negative person. So think about things in a positive way with intent, because those things will define you. Intent also helps you focus on what matters. If you've built out your values, and by the way, if you haven't done the values exercise, go into the document side of our membership portal and work on what your values are. And that not only works for you personally, but it also works for your business plan. I know a number of you in the group right now are working on your business plans. Understanding what your values are and developing your goals within those values will also help the intent that you have for that business, the direction that you're going to go. Helps you focus on what matters, keeps your eye on the prize. Intent can also serve as a motivator because you're setting your intention and hitting your goals, becoming a motivator to continue on. It's just like the class I'm going to be taking, 70 hours. It's a lot of FaceTime on the computer, a lot of Zoom time, but I know what the prize is. I know what the direction is going to be. I know why I'm there. It can also be an energizer. Again, just like that class, I know I've got to put 70 hours in, but I know where I'm headed and I know why. So again, intent. Going back to defining your goals, through the definition of your goals, you can continue to work towards them, building upon them as your intent grows and where you're heading with those things, because your goals will change. It's just like I mentioned, jumping into this real estate opportunity right now or taking those classes. 6 months ago, that wasn't part of my intent, but it does align with my goals. And that's to bring more income into my household, right? So I'm looking at other ways to fill that working from home, taking care of my kids, utilizing the resources that I have, right? So that all wraps into my goal. So doing something again with intent. Now, intent also allows you to highlight areas of improvement because you can step back and realize, okay, I'm doing these things that don't align with my goals and my values. So just make that subtle shift back into line with what you should be doing. It also, when you start looking at your intention, it could help you with any flaws that you might have, redirect, get back on track. Remain calm, confident, because you know where you're going as opposed to the unknown, right? And that goes back to making some lists, the intent that you have within those lists. By the way, if you haven't spent much time on the back end of our platform, there is a goals tab. Hit the goals tab, drop down the task list, and there's 6 critical tasks on there that we feel will help enhance your day every day. Starts off with your gratitude exercise, and by the way, you're not filling it all out online. You're just checking the box that you did that. But gratitude, exercise, writing down your goals for the day, what goals you achieved, did you read, visualize, etc. And if you want to have some fun with it, there is a leaderboard that we keep track of all the members that are doing things and can feel like you've accomplished something compared to your colleagues there. So anyways, it allows you to track your progress. Intent can also help you filter out what's not useful. So as you start analyzing your life and your lists, you can filter out what's not useful to you and discard that. And then finally, intent will help make a difference in what you're doing. Okay. Thanks, Taylor. I love that you like the leaderboard. I'm going to be looking for your name on there. All right. So how to start being intentional. I gave you just a brief overview of what that means, but how do you become intentional? First of all, tune out the noise, avoid the distractions, other people, or anything else that's going to change your outcomes. Look at what's creating that noise too. Oftentimes that's social media. Back in 2016, I cut out the news. I couldn't handle the news anymore. I realized that the news in 2016 was creating so much noise in my life from the presidential race and every media outlet bashing on our country and the presidents that were running. I had to cut out that noise because it was changing my intent and my goals, and literally made a difference in my life by cutting that out. I'm getting back to that again, by the way. I've cut out the news the last couple of months because we're back to what it was back in 2016. It was just clutter and noise distracting me from what my goals are and what I wanted to become and do. It doesn't mean that the news cycle isn't important to me. I've just found a different way to get the news in a healthy fashion as opposed to the clutter, right? So look at your life and where you might be getting clutter or that noise might be coming from so you can get rid of it and focus on your goals and what's important. Another way to be intentional, I mentioned this already, is identify your values. If you know what your values are, you can be intentional about how you get them. And what I mean by that is going after your goals, aligning with your values, and using that intent to stay right on track. The reason why we have on the platform the task list is that the idea is that when you get up and you start your day and you're doing some of your routine, that you jump on that task list so that you start your day with intent. Like, okay, let's do some gratitude. Let's think about visualization. What are your goals for the day? You're going to see in the very near future, hopefully in the next week or two, we're going to send out an email flow during the week to remind you of some of the tools that we have available to help you, or reminders of things that you could or should be doing as it relates to your business to help build it one step at a time. Talk about, the easiest way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Well, we're hoping to help give you those bites every couple of days via email as a reminder, like, hey, don't forget to chip away at this a little bit. Let's start that business plan. Let's just start with the mission statement. All right, we got the mission statement. What are the values of this company? Okay, we got that. What's the next step? Where am I doing this at? What's the plan? What's the budget look like? How much money do I need to raise? So one step at a time. And the goal is throughout the week, you're going to get little reminders from us of things that you can be doing. So setting your intention and refocusing on a daily basis if you need to. That's what's great about that list, is that you can jump in and go, oh yeah, what are my goals for the day? One of the exercises that I've been talking about doing a lot, and I've done this in the past, and that is a visualization board. What we used to do when I was younger, when they had more of them, is, sure Rachel will relate, is cut out magazine pictures, things that will help you visualize what your goals are, what your intent is. Create a visualization board. You can do it on your computer now, put it on a PowerPoint slide or something like that, but things that will remind you of what you're going after. Maybe it's that ranch in Montana. That's what my board used to have on it 5 years ago. And here I am, right? If you can visualize it, you have an easier time chasing after that with your goals and your values. Another exercise I like, and I just learned this from a guest on my podcast last week, is resetting yourself as often as you need to. And what he was specifically referring to is, you can do this right now on the call. On a scale of 1 to 10, right now, where are you on your goals for the day or your intent for the day? Are you a 1? Are you a 5? Are you an 8? Are you a 10? Where are you right now? Write it down. And when you get off this call, do anything that you can to get you closer to that 10, whatever it looks like. So resetting, it's a really simple exercise. But when it pops in your mind, go, okay, where am I at? A scale of 1 to 10, where I'm at right now. What am I going to do right now to make a difference on my goals? That simple little exercise will help you take one more bite a day out of that bigger goal. And then finally, don't forget to give yourself a break. Don't be too hard on yourself if you're not hitting those goals exactly as you envisioned them, but don't give up on them either. Get right back after it. I talked about that a couple of weeks ago when I bowed out of the Spartan race on Saturday. By Monday morning, I was back in the gym trying to get the reps in. I wasn't beating myself up over not doing something, right? Just as they say up here in cow country, get back on that horse, back on and ride it. So that's my brief overview on intent. I think it's an important word. It's a different way of saying, what are my goals? How am I going to go after them? What's important to me today? And I wanted to wrap that around that brief exercise of saying on 1 to 10, where I'm at right now, because you'll watch your day change over time if you continually check yourself. So I don't want to talk the whole time. Rod, love to hear your thoughts on the subject.
Well, thanks, Jim. I want to say I love hearing the different perspective, from Rachel's intention to your intention. I would do a class on intention. It would be the same and totally different because of our backgrounds. We all approach things differently. And we get this over and over again. Basics, reminders of the basics. Whether you're a professional athlete, professional shooter, a professional soldier, a professional loan writer, realtor, marketer, it's the basics that we have to master. And sometimes it's so easy to get focused on running that we forget about the breathing and the pacing and all that stuff. You know, we get into that race sometimes and we let the basics slip because we're going with the momentum. It's another great reminder, Jim, and I appreciate that. The biggest thing that I have, well, two different things. Number one, I think it's so important for all of us to track our wins, because you said, where are you at today compared to where you wanted to be, right? I had my goals listed out. And then when you get done with the call, let's do it. Because I looked at it and I thought, I'm probably 7.5 to 8, but I didn't get it all done. And I wrote down on my thing here, start over. I can start over. I can do something tonight, and that might just be getting my list back out and saying, okay, the stuff I didn't get done today goes on the top of the list tomorrow before I even get to count it, right? It's not part of the new list, it's part of the old list. It's got to get done. But it's so easy. And in my careers, I've done a lot of starting over. And you can get good at starting over, and it can launch you ahead. That 3 steps forward and 1 back is just fine as long as you've got 3 steps forward and 1 back, right? It still adds up. Just keep that momentum going. And I think it's so important to, again, you said, give yourself a break. Sometimes we get into that thing. And for those of you who have read my book, in the chapter on work ethic, the thing that opposes a good work ethic is not sloth. It's not laziness. It's going to the opposite extreme and becoming a workaholic. And we have to, especially as entrepreneurs, especially as family people or working from home, it's so easy when your office is right here to not stop and to keep working and not knowing when to shut it off. So giving yourself a break to go and get after it again is important, because if we start looking at how much productive time we've spent during the day, we've probably spent a lot more productive working hours than we really think we have. So give yourself a little bit of a break. And as far as, tracking your wins, I think I've brought this up before. And if for anybody who hasn't been here, I think I've shared this. You'll notice I've got a couple of things up, fresh things on a Lifesaver Award and Certificate of Appreciation for the American Legion. Jim, I know you got one of those too. Those are recent. But I don't have my diplomas and military certificates and all that stuff up on the wall. I keep it in a binder, right? All my wins, all my certificates and diplomas and all that stuff from a lifetime are in here. But I wanted to bring this out tonight because I have a section in this win column of each of my children. And it's a picture of them when they were little and as they got to be adults, and when they got married, and when they had children, and things we've done together as a family. Those are more important than my degrees and certificates, and they're in my wins. So if I'm stalled out during the course of a day, if I just need a break, if I need to give myself a break, I can go to my little win binder right here, and I'm reminded of what's important. It gets me back to my values, and it gives me that fresh mental start with, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I could be sitting in a lawn chair or golfing or something like that, but this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not finished yet. And none of you on this call are finished yet. Some of you, like me, might just be feeling like you're starting all over. I've mentioned before, I feel like I'm that graduate right out of high school. In 2 weeks, that's what's going to be hitting the streets. All these graduates that think, oh, I finally get to get out into the real world and live my dreams and change everything, right? I feel like that every day. So I think it's great for us, and that it has to be intentional. Every day I need to know I can make a difference. So Rachel, now that you've heard a whole different perspective, I'd love to hear your take with your throbbing foot.
I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. Of course I have a different perspective on it. I love that we always are coming at it from different angles. So as Rod and Jim kind of mentioned, I tore some ligaments in my ankle on Mother's Day, which was a week ago. And so in 45 days, I'm taking this bike trip through Scotland, and then I'm training for another bike ride in Mammoth. And I'm very physically active. You know, you guys have heard me talk about 75 hard. You'd heard me talk about dedication and consistency, and all those things I think are really great, and they're hard on their own, but they're even harder when you're faced with an injury. So when I'm thinking about intention for me this week, it's all about, okay, I'm going to intentionally have the right mindset. I'm going to intentionally, not get bogged down by feeling the pain of what I'm going through, and remember that, like, if I'm intentional and I'm consistent and I'm disciplined, like, it's all going to work itself out. So that has been the overwhelming part of my thoughts and my journey over the last 7 days. And my acupuncturist is like, you're a very good patient. You do all the right things. You do what the physical therapist says. You drink the right water. You take your Chinese herbs, or you drink your water. You don't drink. You like alcohol. All the things, right? So those are all intentional choices that I'm making so that I can get healthy, better, faster, stronger, right? And you can apply those same principles to your business. You can apply them to your parenting. You can apply them to your partner, your family, like other things in your life. So it is really important for me to share that with you guys, because that's part of what this community is all about, of sharing, how we are supporting each other as we go through these different life experiences and this adulting, that we're all, kind of figuring it out at different stages. And just to touch on what Jim said, by the way, about the intentionality of your business and the steps and like what comes next and all of that. I think sometimes people get really bogged down in their business because it's very overwhelming. And these are not things that we learned in school, but it is very simple. And there are steps. And a lot of us have taken those steps to start one business, two business, three businesses. So, please lean on us to ask those questions about, it could be something as simple as, well, what order do I get a bank account versus an EIN number versus file my, LLC or S Corp papers? And, does it matter what order I do it? Well, yeah, actually it does, because it's sort of like the domino effect. Like, you can't, otherwise you'll hit roadblocks, right? And then you'll find yourself kind of like Jim's story of like taking the route in the car, right? You don't want to have to keep circling back around. So if you can know, the path that you need to go down, it'll save you some time, some money, and not have to pay that dummy tax that we've talked about before. So anyways, intentionality with yourself and your business. It's a great message, and perfectly timed for all of us for different reasons.
Thanks, Rachel. By the way, it's a really good point about, the business tapping into us for some advice on what direction to go if you're stuck. We don't want you to be stuck. And oftentimes, if we're offering our help, we'll send you over a list of things like, this is what you can be working on. We might just naturally put it in order, but if not, if it looks overwhelming, we'll just take one bite at a time. Makes it a lot easier that way. And the intention here with this group is to help get you to that finish line sooner. We want to see you make more money or have more opportunity or get out of this what you came for. That is our objective. So if we can be helpful in any way, please let us know. Craig's got a question. Craig, if you want to unmute and add a little more color to that, I'd take you live, and thanks for being here.
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think so. Interesting. I grew up a little bit in Kalispell, went to Flathead High, married my wife here in California, and I still have family up in your area, Flathead, in Kalispell and Whitefish. But we have intentions of getting back to that area in a couple of years after my youngest is out of high school. And I'm trying to lay out a plan that is to help me, number one, grow in my career within the current organization that I'm in. I've been relatively successful as a sales engineer over the years. And I'm trying to work up that ladder, but also find other paths that I can fall back on if that doesn't exactly work out. And one of those is building a mastermind group in the field that I'm in, focused on very specific periods in people's careers to go help them through those times, right? I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm relatively knowledgeable at what I do, and the coach, I've, ad hoc coached folks in the past and helped them along their journeys. But and I'm working with a couple of other individuals in this group to build this mastermind. And I don't feel like, well, number one, I've got my day job, but number two, I don't feel like the urgency around getting this off the ground is the same with them as it is for me, right? So I'm trying to figure out how to balance that, how to instill some motivation and excitement around it. And maybe they're not the right people, but how do you kind of balance that? Okay, I'm really good at what I do, and I make really good money, and yeah, I could just keep doing this, but I feel like I have a different purpose. So long-winded question, but that's kind of a little bit of what's going on and why I'm here.
Yeah, well, again, we appreciate you being here, Craig. And I feel confident that we can give you some direction on those things. We talk about the importance of the soft skills in business, and that's exactly where your question comes from, is the soft skills of finding good business partners and taking the time up front to align yourselves with one another's goals. You might be on a completely different time frame than they are, but yet they might bring something to the equation that will round out your business plan. So, the thing is that you need to have those tough conversations up front, or if you're already in business, you've kind of formed a partnership, have those tough conversations now. Because what you don't want to happen is a couple of years from now, you're ready to bring your family back up to Montana and live the wonderful life we have up here again, and realize that your business partners are nowhere near that, right? So the first advice I'd give you is have the tough conversations now. Either you're a fit or you're not a fit. And if you're not, unwind the deal to the best of your ability, maintain your friendships, because that's the most important thing, and find a way to continue doing what you're doing, and maybe you go at it alone. But don't delay the conversation regardless of what that outcome might look like, okay? Because otherwise, you're going to find yourself too far down the road. You're going to be miserable. So will they, more than likely, and it's not going to work. The other part of your question that you'd written was, having the challenge of balancing your life, knowing where you want to go, and working on those steps towards the future. And that goes a little bit, well, it's a perfect subject for tonight, is doing it with intention. But I'd go as far back as resetting your values and your goals based on those. So as an example of, if it's your goal to get back to Montana or somewhere like this in 3 to 5 years, then start building a plan around that and balancing your life around that, instead of getting caught in the grind of every day, showing up and doing what you're doing and getting off track or off focus. It is challenging to balance a life and a busy career and a lot of hours within those careers, but it can be done. And I oftentimes will talk about finding the white space on your calendar. So become a student of your calendar, start inputting everything you can into a digital calendar so that you can look at what I call the white space, are the opportunities within that calendar. Now, in that white space, you need to decide, is that the time that you need to fill up with your family time because that's an element missing? Or does that create a little bit more opportunity for you to work on your new business or to focus on the business you have? But you will find that we all have so much more time than we give ourselves credit for if you can be organized and build your day around your values and your goals and where you want to be with those things. So hopefully that helps a little bit. And Craig, I'd love to touch base with you offline and maybe walk through it in a little bit more detail to bring some value to you there. So don't hesitate to reach out. I've got your number now, and we'll connect that way. So Rod, do you want to touch on that real quick? And then I'll read Bruce's question here before I answer that one. You're on mute. Rod, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yes, thank you. Couple of things. First, I see two different things going on, Craig. One is the mastermind group, and you're working with some other people with that, but then you've got a vision, and Jim hit on this, that your goal is to get back to Montana. So you've got two separate goals here. So one is a personal goal and one is a business goal. So they have to align somewhere, right? So
Yeah.
I know Jim and I always talk about, you have to have a plan. You have to have a business plan, or at least a one sheet on what you're trying to do. And if the people you're aligned with currently aren't there, then, you know, you need to not revise that plan. You need to find different people that are going to work with your plan. So I would start with two plans, you know, your personal plan and then your business plan. And if they're not in alignment with your business plan, if you don't have one yet, you need to start on that. And I'm sure Jim will work on you with that. But there are other things. Jim said, find the white space. There's always a way. It's just a matter of setting the priorities. Once you have the plan, then you set the priorities and you set the plan in motion. And with the intent, you will get there. And there are all kinds of steps you can take along the way. And I could give you lots of examples, but I'm not going to exhaust that. Maybe after you and Jim connect, you and I can have a conversation offline also. So that's all I'll say about that right now. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Rod.
Yeah,
Hey,
thanks
by
for
the
the
way,
feedback, guys. Appreciate it.
yeah. And by the way, I want to encourage you to walk down that path of a mastermind group, especially if you have success in the world that you work in. You know what you'll find these days, and I'm a member of a couple different groups. I see Fred just popped in. He's a member of a couple different groups. There's value in these groups, but there's plenty of room for experts. You will find some of these groups lack the expert at the top. They've seen a lot of masterminds, so they're going to create their own, and they have zero experience. You know, the 25-year-old's like, I'm going to share all my secrets with you. Well, geez, how long you been in business? You know, 5 years, maybe, if you're lucky. With your maturity and your experience, you can create some real value in creating this mastermind group. And by the way, doing something like that you can do from the comfort of your home will help get you to the city and state that you want to be in sooner. It's exactly how I moved myself to Montana. Wasn't through a mastermind group, but it was through consulting with intent to move myself. So I think you're walking down the right path. Let's just help you get there. All right, got a question from Bruce. Bruce, I love this question, by the way. Is targeting a smaller demographic for training? If you don't know, Bruce does firearms training, and he's got a great podcast about firearms. And you're looking to access a specific demographic, which would be high end. And he went on to say the consequences of them carrying firearms there. What I like the most about this question, Bruce, is that it's what you're doing is you're drilling down to the customers that you want to service. And because oftentimes we take a shotgun approach, to use maybe something from your world, you know, you scatter your business everywhere, and it's hard to bring back pieces that turn into tangible business itself. But with the rifle approach, you can go deep in that segment to find your business, right? And the good news about a rifle approach, especially with the group that you're talking about, high end, you know, which means high net worth, is you can charge more for your services. You can charge more for what you're teaching, right? Because it's very concentrated. Now, how do you attack that, right? Well, look at where the rich people hang out. Okay, immediately you can start, you know, dwindling the long list down to a very short one. You know, first thing that comes to mind is private jets. So they have all kinds of different groups for people that fly privately. Right now, you start drilling into that. High-end fundraisers. You know, I'm looking at Rachel. We used to attend some high-end fundraisers in Orange County. You start networking around those people. Unfortunately, Bruce, you might have to go to Missoula once in a while and tap into some of those fundraisers down there. But it is much easier to chase after a demographic when you know what that is and you know what you want. So I'll put some personal thought into where you could target specifically. I've spent the last, 25 years working around high net worth individuals from my life at Kettle One and all the fundraisers we used to do. I could probably give you a long list of people to approach are places that you can put yourself. Now, knowing a little bit more about you than most, I do know demographically you're going to be a little challenged. So we're going to have to find them through online methods, but we can do that as well. So I'll put some thought into that. Does that, if it answers your question, great. If not, feel free to unmute and go further.
No, I appreciate that, Jim. It dawned on me, I had some teaching down in Boise, and my skill set, I'm not trying to sound like I'm arrogant, but my skill set is basically because of my background in the Bureau, I had to operate in very discreet circles all over the country with people that, you know, did not expect you to be armed. There are certain instances where I could not appear to be armed and still had to accomplish a mission. And I have the ability in the bona fides to train those people to do that. And what I realized is the internet is awash with people that are coming back from the sandbox, God bless them. And they really are pushing more of an entertainment type training rather than deadly serious. Here's how you survive, and here's how you operate discreetly in what are considered non-permissive environments. And I had a chat with a dear friend of mine who's actually doing this on the East Coast. And he said, dude, this is a huge niche for you. And he said, you're missing this. And he's absolutely right. And so, you know, I think I need to jump back into get and refine a business plan, obviously. But I'd like to talk to you guys about that. Because the more I realize, I mean, there's a significant number of people, especially in the current environment where crime is absolutely crawling through the ceiling. I think that would be something I could target and would be able to service that market fairly well.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, where my mind goes very quickly, and this is good discussion for the group, right? Is you've got a website built around your training efforts, but what you're talking about is something very specific. You may create a second URL or second website under a different name that really talks about this exclusivity. You know, it's almost like a legal black market approach, like, hey, this is what we do, but it's extremely discreet. And it's, you know, names are confidential, et cetera. I come to you, I train you there, except, you know, the list goes on. I'm sure you can think of all those things. But, you know, as you were talking, I had a client last month here locally in Kalispell, high net worth, brother's high net worth, the friends that he has up here, high net worth. They're all have been a part of that showmanship training that you're talking about. I know that Fred was just at an event over this last weekend around a whole bunch of gun enthusiasts with lots of money that probably should be a little bit more concealed than not as well. So I think we can at least point you in the right direction. Bruce, I love where your head's at on the expansion of your business model, by the way. So would love to talk to you more about that. I want to go to Riley since she's got her hand up, and Bruce, you know how to get a hold of us. So let's circle back on that at some point this week. Go ahead, Riley.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. I had two questions. One is, and maybe Rachel, this would be a quick question for Rachel, is there a resource or like a app or a service that helps with writing, in the sense of like writing emails that are going out, whether it's editing or helping you use your words better, different things like that.
Okay, are you thinking like a chat GPT solution, like an AI solution, or a human?
Like a chat like an AI thing, or like a something like that, I guess.
So have you checked it out yet, chat GPT?
No, because it totally freaks me out.
All right, well, that's not uncommon. A lot of people are having that debate right now. I'm a fan. It's
okay.
It's oddly easy to use. If you think about it like this. So Google is what? Google is a search engine, right? You put in something and it searches for an answer, right? And then you have to look through. Whereas, so it's a search. So ChatGPT is an answer service. So you don't have to search. It's not a search service. It's an answer service. So there's a lot of information I could give you guys about how to talk to Chat GPT and have a conversation with Chat GPT. And the way you talk to it is very different than the way you talk to Google. So you can like type into Chat GPT and it'll learn from what you're telling it. And you can go back and forth with Chat GPT. It's not like when you put something into the Google search and you ask it and then it gives you an answer and then you ask it something else and you keep redefining what you're asking. Chat GPT is during that conversation and it keeps track of it. So you can always go back. It's learning. So you can be like, okay, like write me a social media post that's 2 to 3 sentences long from the point of view of my target market, who is, you know, a woman, you know, in her 30s, that's related to this product, and then it'll give you something. And you say, that's a good start, but actually, can you make it on behalf of this person instead? Or can you throw in this product name? Or if I was, I mean, you could even ask it like, oh, like, write it in the tone of voice of this person, right? Like you really can work with it. And then you can ask it to refine and say like, you know, that's not really what I was going for. Here's some more information that might help you. Try again. Like it's wonderful once you get over that initial fear factor, and it's currently free. So I would do that. Does everyone have the URL for Chat GPT?
Rachel, if you don't mind, just pop it up, or you know what, put it on our backend platform. That way they can go there and get it. I see you just did it already. So
But I'll put it in the back end too, so that it will be there, because even everyone calls it Chat GPT, that's not the URL, which is confusing. I don't know why that is the case, but it's really fun once you, and so like my daughter, for instance, even asked it like, hey, what would you write in a Mother's Day card from a 13-year-old girl to her mother? And it wrote the most beautiful card. She was like, oh, I'm gonna save this, use it. So and then put your personal touch on it, right? Like it's not going to give you everything perfectly, but the answer is only as good as the question, as the information you tell it. And remember, it doesn't have current events. It only goes up to like 2021. So if you say like based on what last week, it will actually tell you, I don't have information that's that recent, you know. So just try it and like put it in the back end of the platform. If you run into questions or you want advice or you get a little gun shy, don't hesitate.
Riley, it's kind of like a ghostwriter for your book, right? So when I wrote a book, 70% of it was really good content based on a series of video interviews with me. The last 30, I wanted to put my own personal touch to it. So if that's something that can get you over the hump to get you started on a topic or get most of it written, and then you add some of your personal touches, I think it's a really good tool. I actually watched Samantha use it on a build out of a website, and it helped her with the content. And she had like 3 or 4 different choices to utilize for the copy on the website. So it is a useful tool, and there's ways to go about it. So there you go. Did you have 2 questions?
Yeah.
One more thing on that topic is I also just put into the back end another website that's called Best Hashtags, and it's free, and you can go on there and you can say like, you know, that you're looking for trending hashtags in a certain industry, and it'll tell you which hashtags are currently trending. It'll like spit out a bunch of them, and then you can pick through, and it's a good thought starter.
Okay. Okay, then my other question was for Jim. You talked about filtering out, like being intentional, and by being intentional, you can filter out what's not useful. Do you have like any type of a metric for that? Like if you, would you give like something a certain amount of time and you're like, okay, this has not brought me any referrals, or this has not increased my income, or whatever it is? Do you have any type of metric when you're thinking about that?
You know what, it's a really good question, because the first thing that comes to mind is typically, in my world, it's been toxic people, right? People that don't align with my values or don't align with my goals. And it's typically an organic time frame. Like, okay, every time I go over their place, all they want to do is get drunk and talk about how bad their life is and how bad their job is, right? It only takes a couple visits to cut that out of your life. I think if you can apply similar mechanisms to what you're trying to achieve in work, right? So let's say, for example, I've been in Toastmasters, you're in Toastmasters. Let's say you're going to 4 meetings a month, and you realize after 2 months, like, okay, I'm a good speaker now. I get it. I see what the program is, but it's not advancing me towards what my goals are. You need to identify what your goals are and what your intent is being there. And is it achieving that? Or is it taking more time to be there? And actually, Toastmasters are a pretty good example. I went there for a refresh. And what I realized on the first meeting is they're there to bring you into their world. You know, they've got goals and objectives for the club, and the better status you have, the better status they get. They want to grow their memberships and have these great meetings, which I appreciate all those things. But very quickly, I realized those were their goals. Those weren't my goals. My goals were just to become a better speaker or refresh some of the tools I learned. So I wasn't being a taker. I paid and I donated and I gave everything I had while I was there. But I realized 5 to 10 meetings was all I needed to achieve what I was after. And then I cut myself off. Now, it happened a little bit organically because I picked up a new client that was the same day of the week. But now that I'm not going, I realize, all right, it was productive for a period. Now I'm moving on because it's no longer productive. So I think you need to analyze what you're doing, why you're doing it, and if it's a fit. Now, I know you take a lot of personal meetings, and if that's not resulting the objectives that you're looking for, you're just drinking a lot of coffee with a lot of people, time to switch it up. Do something different. You know, maybe it's attend a different type of meeting instead of having coffee. Maybe it's more of a social setting or something, right? Different way to build those relationships. But build out your own time frames, and if it's hitting the mark, you'll know if it's not. You probably already know. That's why you're asking the question. All right. Any other questions?
Can I give a shout?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Fred, because last week he talked about posting on social media and like being consistent with that. And I noticed that this last week there's been a bunch of posts. So
awesome. I had a chance to meet David in person this last weekend. He was up here at the Flag Nor Fail office. So David, great to see you there. I love interacting with our members. Tonight we've got almost a completely different group on than we had last week. I will say that, again, looking at the names of people that are just here tonight, this group is on fire with a lot of great activities. I know, again, referencing Fred, he had a great weekend up in Utah. Jim, I know you've got a full plate of stuff going on. Riley, we've spoken. Every single person in this group is working on something. And I would really encourage you to spend time in community with one another on our back end. The platform's there more for you all than for us. It's a way that you can be connected with us, but you can ask questions of one another, reach out, find out what each other's doing. And I think that you'll see how often your paths can cross and how much value you can bring to one another. If you haven't spoken to Sean Fuller live, he's worth reaching out to just to get to know. He's our youngest member, but he's absolutely crushing it in his business. So he's been fun to talk to. Wayne, good to see you on the call tonight. Taylor, I got to call you out. You want to jump on real fast and give us an update on your retail purse project? He's scurrying probably.
You can call me out. I don't know where to start. Do you have specific questions?
Well, just curious, is it going well? Is your business growing? Because I see your posts and they look amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It is growing. It's growing. I made myself a 3-month goal that was very lofty. I'm unmuted, right?
Yep.
Okay. And I'm realizing that maybe it was a little bit too much, but it is pushing me forward. It's propelling me to do more than I would have probably otherwise done if I didn't make that goal. So I see now that even though there's a high likelihood I won't meet my goal, it was still worth it to set that goal because, like I said, I'm kind of holding myself accountable in that way. So yeah, still a lot of things going on. I'm doing a lot of work every day. So really for me, it's a matter of just getting our name out there right now, which is very, I mean, everybody here knows how difficult that is when you're starting from zero. So I just keep thinking, like, I'm very thankful for what we do have, and we are growing every week. Like our marketing is all online. We're, basically an online retail business. And I was just talking to Spencer, my husband, saying that that's what I want. Like, I don't want to, my long-term goal is not to be going to trade shows and, working in person. I would like to really be solely online at some point. So that's kind of what I'm working towards. Always open to suggestions. Thank you for checking.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say is that you're refining your intentions for your business, which makes all the sense in the world. And by the way, if you're not following along Taylor's story, is that she's only been in business for months, not years. And she's really making a great splash in the industry that she's in. It's very specific and targeted towards moms and our females and their purses. And I love how consistent you are. So keep doing what you're doing. Jim Spilson, we missed you last week, so I'd love to get a quick update from you because we missed you, brother.
We're in the school year. There's so many things pulling on time right now. It's crazy. We're at the end of the hour. My question, I've known forever about goal setting and the long term and the vision and all that, but lately, I would say lately, the last 8 months, I've been doing, I don't know if that even comes through, daily and weekly goal setting. So planning the week, mapping the week, trying to do the core 4, laying out the day-to-day and the week-to-week is easy because it's fresh. I know what I need to get done the next couple of days. Really setting out the long term and then breaking that down to the bite size eating the elephant, I'm horrible. I need somebody to shake me or lay it out or walk me through it or something. How do I transition from the easy day-to-day to the longer term vision of being able to really lay out, here's what I need to do in the 3 months, 6 months, because it's not clicking and I avoid it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a really good question, by the way. I had a client last month, real high-end, successful, feels like he's doing all the right things. And one of my first meetings I had with him, I said, what's your 5-year plan? And he looks at me and goes, nobody's ever asked me that before. I said, well, you're coming, he's coming in on his 40th birthday and it's a pivotal year for him in his mind. I said, well, this is a big year for you. Aren't you worried about, in 5 years from now, you're going to be in the wrong place? He goes, no, nobody's ever asked me that before. So Jim, what I would recommend, and I hate to always go back to this, but you really have to look at what are your values and how you're going to get there, because you can get there a number of ways. And you could be overly focused on what's right in front of you instead of what's really important to where you want to be in 12 months from now. Does that mean you want to spend more time with your family? Do you want more money in the bank? Do you want more of something else? What does that really look like to you? And then when you look at your dailies, is it aligning with that so that you can get there? And if you have to, and you mentioned Core 4, I know you get that from the Lion's Den, which is some great programming, but you might have to look at things differently all the way down to if I've got to make $100,000 in the next 12 months, well, what is that per month? What is that per week? What is that per day? And then chase after that, knowing that if you're getting that number, you're there in 12 months. Now, it's a really easy way to look at that, but that's probably what you're lacking is, kind of looking further down the road and reverse engineering that. Okay. And if you want to hop on the phone on that one, I'd love to just walk you through it as well. I know that Rod or Rachel would do the same for you, but I spend a lot of time reverse engineering things because that'll give you the answers that's right in front of you, what you're chasing right now. And instead of chasing the wrong things, you'll be chasing the right things if you reverse engineer it. By the way, that's what I did for moving to Montana. You know, we think about retirement looks like making millions of dollars and I'm not going to be able to retire until I do. Well, when you move to a state that's 33% less cost of living across the board, all of a sudden that million turns into 700 grand, right? By reverse engineering that, the target gets smaller and smaller, and then you know exactly what you got to do. So I hope that sort of helps, but I am willing to hop on the phone with you as well.
Okay, I already put connect this week.
Okay, you know how to do it. Right on. I love, by the way, I love that Jim uses the tools in front of him. If you don't, we've offered it, but Jim will pick up the phone. He actually knows, he's got my calendar link. He'll book a time. We spend 15 minutes. We're on, we're off, and he's moving forward every week. And I know, Jim, you've seen a lot of opportunities in front of you. So look, we're right at our hour. We've had a couple new people on today. I really appreciate you. Utilize the tools in front of you. Use the back end. Use some of the things we're throwing your way. And we've got some new stuff coming towards you in the next week through email flows and stuff like that I'm pretty excited about. And get out of your comfort zones. So have a great week. Set your intentions. It's Monday.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.